welcome back to the channel. And in this video, on the following video, little two-part series, I'm going to look at something that I get asked about an awful lot on the channel and on Twitter and emails and all the rest of it. And that is IAM Roadsmart Masters Programme. So IAM Roadsmart are one of the two major road safety charities in the UK, one of the two organisations that carry out advanced driver and rider training and tests for civilian drivers. Obviously, you know, alongside that there is police advanced driver and rider training, which is for operational police officers and other people who might need those skills. But if you're a civilian, if you're a member of the public, the IAM and Roadsmart are your two routes to getting an advanced driver qualification. And a few years ago, IAM Roadsmart introduced their Masters Programme, which was designed to be, I suppose, a harder, more comprehensive test of your skills as an advanced driver. And there's a lot of misunderstandings about Masters, one of which is that you need a different set of skills, or you're learning different things and different techniques over and above your normal advanced driving test, and that's not the case, and I'll explain why in a short time. But IAM promote it as this higher level driving test, the hardest and most comprehensive driving test, advanced driving test that you can do in the UK, and I'd probably agree with that. The only driving tests that are more comprehensive and more intensive are the police advanced driving test and bike tests. But of course in the police you go on a 3 or a 4 week course, you're doing it full time, and you've got an exemption from speed limits, and there's the difference. With a road safety organisation, they can't promote going above speed limits, and that's the same for the Masters test. So a little caveat here, I have not taken and passed the IAM Roadsmart Masters test in the car. I have done on the bike, passed my IAM Masters test a couple of years ago on the bike, and I got a distinction. So I have a good understanding of what's required, but I have some qualifications that I gained in the police that sort of trump the Masters a little bit. I'm a police class 1 advanced driver, and I'm also a police instructor, advanced instructor. So I've never really felt the need to do the Masters, but I do have a very, very clear understanding of what's required. And this little series of 2 videos that I'm doing, in this video I'm going to give you an introduction to, I'm going to tell you all about the Masters and what's required. And in the second video I'm going to do a demonstration drive. I'm going to demonstrate all the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video and show you what's required on the road in order for you to get a good pass at Masters level. So Masters, what's it all about? Well, to start with, if you want to enrol in the Masters programme, it isn't just a test, it's a programme, I think they describe it as. So effectively what you do is you buy a Masters course, a Masters programme, and for your money you get a series of observed drives with a Masters mentor, that's a specially trained IAM mentor who will guide you through the process, take you out on the road, give you all the guidance that you need in order to get your driving up to that Masters standard. I think you get a copy of the current roadcraft, you get a logbook, and you get the test at the end. So in order to enrol on the Masters programme, you first of all need to be a full member of the IAM. That means that you've either got to have passed an IAM advanced driving test, the normal standard advanced driving test, or you've got to have joined with one of the exemptions, and the exemptions are that you've got a suitable driving qualification from a police force or similar. That means you've passed a higher level test than the normal advanced driving test. So as a full member of the IAM, you can then enrol on the Masters programme, and IAM will put you in touch with your Masters mentor at your local group, and they will arrange, I think you get something like 10 or 12 hours coaching, training, and remember that's over and above what you've done to pass your normal advanced driving test. And the first thing you need to know about the skills required to pass an IAM Masters test is that they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same as the skills that you'd use to pass a normal advanced driving test. So, you know I've done a recent series of videos about how to pass an advanced driving test. None of those skills change for the Masters test. So all the skills around application of the system of car control, good observations and planning, driving progressively, driving within the speed limits, driving legally, but good cornering skills, overtaking, all that kind of stuff. The skills themselves, the techniques themselves are exactly the same. nothing changes. What does change on the Masters test is that you're expected to perform and carry out those techniques consistently well throughout the drive. And there is more emphasis put on certain elements of advanced driving as well. So, progress, for instance. You'll be expected to demonstrate maximum progress throughout the drive, obviously within the speed limits. You'll be expected to demonstrate correct overtaking technique, good cornering technique. You'll also be expected to carry out a commentary throughout the drive. And the test is about 90 minutes long. So it's not the volunteer examiners like me that carry out the Masters test. It's the area service delivery managers, the managers locally who are employed by the IAM. They're the people that carry out the test. And the test will be carried out away from where you live. You'll be expected to travel for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, a couple of hours to go and meet the area service delivery manager. And that's so that you're tested on roads that you are not familiar with. So that's because the examiner is going to want to see you drive on a road that you are unfamiliar with. They want to see how you read the road, they want to see how you assess corners, they want to see how you are working out and planning your way down the road in an environment that you're not familiar with. And that's not a bad thing, actually, to be honest. I would much prefer to see somebody drive on roads that they're not familiar with than drive on a road that they know really well, because they're making lots of assumptions. If you're driving on a road that you know well, you're making lots of assumptions when you do that. And actually, if you drive on a road that you're unfamiliar with, you're looking at it with a fresh pair of eyes, and that reveals to the examiner, you know, whether you've got good observation skills, whether you can work things out in advance or not. So let's look at each of the different elements now for the Masters test, and I'll describe to you exactly what the examiner is looking for. Let's start with system, because the system of car control sits at the heart of any advanced driving test. And for the Masters, first of all, one word you will hear all the way through this video is consistency. So they are looking for consistently good application of system throughout the drive. That means if you're driving a manual car, they want to see the speed phase finished before you move on to the gear phase, unless it's part of a planned overlap. And if you don't understand what I mean, go back and look at some of my previous videos about system and I explain it all there. But effectively, we want the braking done and finished before you get the gear, not braking and changing gear at the same time. And that needs to be consistent throughout the drive. And the drive itself, the final drive, is about 90 minutes long. So you've got to be absolutely bang on all the way through as far as your system is concerned. Positioning, good accurate positioning, good consistent positioning. Positioning for corners, you know, moving near side on approach. Remember the IAM, you need to be very careful with any moves offside on approach to left-hand bends. So it's a left-hand bend with any suggestion of a limited view on approach. We don't want to be going over that white line. But positioning for safety as well. Remember, safety is your number one priority when you're choosing a position. So the examiner is also looking for a flexible approach when it comes to positioning. That means that you are able to prioritise safety above other elements. There might be one reason to position near side and there might be a safety reason to position offside, and you need to choose the offside position under those circumstances. Safety and legality. Of course, the drive has to be safe and legal. And yes, that means you have to stick to speed limits. Now that might sound odd when the test itself is looking for you to emphasise the elements of progress, but it's progress within the speed limits. It's got to be. It's a road safety charity, so that goes without saying. Cornering. Cornering is one of the elements that's really emphasised within the Masters programme, and it's one of those elements that separates the average drivers from the really good drivers. So the test route, like I said, is 90 minutes. It's on roads that you're not going to be familiar with, but it will include a significant amount of national speed limit roads like this, where there's plenty of corners for you to demonstrate your technique on. So they're looking for accurate position on approach, good speed assessment, use the limit point to assess the speed for corners, use the other visual clues that are available to you. If you're in any doubt about any of this stuff, go back through my back catalogue of videos. It's all there. But as well as the techniques and the positioning and the accuracy of your cornering, they're also looking for the car to flow through a series of corners. So when we're on a road like this, where it's a series of flowing corners, we're looking to use acceleration sense rather than really hard acceleration and hard braking. Acceleration sense, just lifting off the gas where it's appropriate. just to get the speed right for corners, rather than constantly clog and anchor and using the brakes and overusing the brakes. Now, be careful with this though, because that's not to say that you can't use the brakes. So let's talk about braking for a minute. A lot of people think, well, the best drivers never use the brakes, they just drive along on and off the gas, really, and that's the smoothest way to drive. It isn't. You've got to balance off smoothness with progress, and in order to do that you've got to make effective use of the brakes. So your examiners on a Masters test will be looking for good use of three-phase braking, introducing the brakes smoothly, building the braking up in the middle portion, in the second portion, and then in the third phase tailing the brakes off and smoothly releasing the brakes so that the weight transfers rearwards nice and smoothly to prepare the car for the acceleration phase. But you can do that quite firmly. So there are circumstances such as, let me give you an example. If we're going to emphasise progress, but we're going to stick to the speed limits, on a national speed limit road now, when I come to a reduction in the speed limit, say to a 30, the people who overemphasise smoothness and acceleration sense will lift off the gas really early and let the speed bleed off and roll down until they're just at 30, just as they're passing through the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. Well, actually, that's not making best progress, is it? What your Masters examiners will be looking for you to do is maintain that progress, maintain your higher speed in the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit, and then a little bit later brake for the 30s. And you don't even need the gear engaged as you go into the 30 limit. They just want to see your speed just at 30 as you go between the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. Then you can come off the brakes, then you can take an appropriate gear, and that's correct application of system. So let's be clear about this. As far as acceleration sense is concerned, yet through a series of bends, and on this road at the moment, the way that this bend flows, I can drive it just on and off the gas. I'm in 5th gear rather than 6th gear. I can flow along, but it's giving me a bit of retardation when I lift off the gas. But on a road that's a bit tighter and a bit twistier, we're having to slow-mo for corners, your examiners will want to see you using the brakes effectively. Then coming off the brakes, getting the gear and driving the car through the corner. And remember, consistency is the key. They want to see that approach throughout the drive. They don't want to just see one 10-minute magical bit of driving in the middle of a 90-minute average test. It's got to be good and high quality all the way through the test. Overtaking. Now, I've said before, on your normal advanced driving test, you don't need to get an overtake to pass the test. And I suppose, strictly speaking, you don't need to do that on your Masters test either, but what they are looking for is a willingness, an eagerness, a desire, if you like, to overtake slow moving vehicles. So again, it's got to be within the speed limits, but what your examiner is looking for is an ability to catch up with a slow moving vehicle in front, match the speed in a good tight following position, maintain that following position at all times. Don't drop back and get lazy and think, oh, there's no overtakes on. Keep a good tight 2-second following position all the time you're behind that slow moving vehicle. And then if and when a good opportunity to overtake presents itself, by which I mean a really good, safe, obvious opportunity, then they're going to expect you to take it, get a flexible gear, move offside and take the overtake. That's what they're looking for. The mistake that a lot of people make, and believe me, I've seen this on police advanced car tests, never mind Masters or IAM, is that somebody will catch up with a car in front, get in a 2-second following position for a couple of minutes and then think, oh, there's nothing on here, I can't. And it's almost like the brain switches off, and they'll drop back to a 3, a 4, a 5-second following position. And then a mile later, an opportunity to overtake presents itself, but we can't take it. We can't take the opportunity because we're too far back. By the time we've caught up to the car in front, the opportunity's gone. So your examiner on your Masters test can learn a lot about you by watching you follow another vehicle in a good tight 2-second following position. But don't forget, if the opportunity presents itself, take it. This is your Masters test. Now, you don't need to be driving a high performance car to take the Masters test, but all those plans you can put into effect. You know, remember, overtaking is 99% in the planning and 1% in the execution. Commentary. Now, here's another significant change from your ordinary advanced driving test to your Masters test. And this was something that surprised me actually when I sort of looked into Masters for the car. And the expectation on your IAM Masters test is that you commentate from start to finish. Effectively, you're going to do a 90-minute commentary all the way through the drive. Now, for those of you that cringe and pull your face and don't like commentary, sorry, but that's what's required. Now, the reason I said I was surprised about this is because that isn't what's expected on your police advanced driving test. 10-15 minutes of commentary sometime halfway through the drive is all that's expected on your police advanced driving test. So I was quite surprised to find that the Masters was at a higher level than that, but that's not a bad thing. You can then confidently say that your commentary and your level of commentary is the highest possible level. So the expectation is that you get in at the start of the drive, you have a chat with the examiner, you talk them through your starting drill, whatever starting drill your observers or your master's mentors taught you. Pedals and panels are all correct, however you want to go through that, and I'll give you my demonstration of that in the second video. Remember that little exercise at the start of the drive, part of the reason for that is to get you settled in, to get you doing something that you've learnt almost parrot fashion and get you comfortable and settled in the car with your examiner. But then right from the start of the drive, the expectation is that you commentate. So if you're unsure what's required in your commentary, go and look at some of my previous videos about commentary. I'll put some links in the description below. Keep it simple, keep it straightforward, try to make it flow throughout the drive. Start in the far distance, work your way back with your observations. Tell me what you can see, of course, but also tell me what you're going to do about it. And most people are good at the first and bad at the second. They'll tell you what they can see all the way around the drive, and then they forget to tell you what they're going to do about it. Keep your commentary relevant. Learn your road signs. This is a really good tip for masters. Learn your road signs. Learn the correct terminology for the road signs. You know, I said for your advanced driving test, I'm not really bothered whether you've got the terminology right or not. They are for the masters. Learn that that is a finger post sign. There's a national speed limit sign, a width restriction, 40 mile an hour repeater signs. Slow on the road. We've got hazard lines in the centre of the road. So not just your signage, learn your white lines. Got a white line bordering the side of the road, just showing where the edge of the road is. So we've got the back of a triangle warning sign there. Hazard lines are continuing, 40 mile an hour repeater signs. Learn the correct terminology. You can insert that into your commentary all the way through. Remember, you are looking to really impress your examiner, and they are not easily impressed, believe me, they've seen it all. Most of them have some kind of police advanced driver or driver training background, and they're not easily impressed. So if you can go out and impress them with your knowledge and your experience, and you can share your observations, brilliant. Another good tip with commentary is to insert the 5 phases of the system of car control into your commentary at some point. Now, you're not expected to do it all the way through the drive, but it's really nice if 3 or 4 times during the drive somebody would say, looking at a right hand bend coming up for information, I'm looking at the limit point, my position's towards the near side, speed's really dictated by the vehicle in front, the gear's okay, and I'm just using a little bit of positive acceleration to maintain the pace through the corner. 5 phases of the system of car control, all in order. Tell your examiner where you want to look, tell him where you want their eyes to go, tell them where you're looking, share your observations. And actually, the more you practice that, the easier it becomes to maintain a commentary over a longer period of time. It gets easier and easier. And after a bit, you'll just get into it. Something you can practice every time you get in the car, something you can practice all the time. And as for all the other elements, remember you're being tested on the same elements that you tested for your advanced driving test, all the same objective elements. And you're being marked 1, 2 or 3 for all of those elements. And a 3 means that you do not reach the required standard. You don't want to get a 3 in any areas on your master's test. If you get 1 3 in one single area, that means you've consistently failed to reach the required standard in one area, then you'll fail the test. The minimum that you want on that test is 2s in every area. A 2 means that you reach the required standard, you reach the master's standard. If you get at least a 2 in every area, you're going to get a master's qualification. But there's 2 levels of pass. You can get a master's, or you can get a master's with distinction. And if you want a master's with distinction, we're looking to get all 1s. So 1 means that you exceed the required standard. You are exceeding the basic standard that's required for a master's pass. Now that's not easy. That requires you to demonstrate all the way through the drive that you're bang on, that you're accurate, that you know what's required, that you can apply those principles consistently throughout the drive. I told you I'd say consistently a lot. If you can do that, and you can be in that rarefied atmosphere of the small number of people who achieve a distinction at Masters. So that's what the Masters test is all about. That's my own personal explanation of it. Some of it's taken off the IAM Roadsmart website. I'll put a link in the description below to the area of the website where you can apply to do your Masters test if you want to. In my view, it's well worth doing. If you're really interested in continuing to improve your driving skills, you've got to push yourself. You've got to challenge yourself. You've got to put yourself in for these additional tests. It does you good, even if you're an experienced observer and you've been teaching this stuff for years. It does you good to revisit these skills and have somebody else look at you and put yourself under the pressure of the test, because you forget how much that pressure of a test can affect people. So in the next video, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because in the next video that I'm going to upload, I'm going to do a demonstration drive at Masters level. I probably won't do the full 90 minutes because I'll lose people after about 20 minutes on YouTube videos. So I'll probably do a 20-25 minute Masters level demonstration drive, just so you can see what's required. And as usual, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer all the questions that people put in there. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Hope you've got something out of this. Hope you understand the Masters qualification a little bit better now, and you understand the Masters programme, what you get out of it. Oh, one other thing, I think the IAM require you to re-qualify every 5 years, so you have to retest on your Masters every 5 years to keep the qualification. I knew there was something else I had to tell you. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and the usual stuff. Don't forget to subscribe. Go have a look at the website as well, reglocal.com. There's loads more information there about advanced and performance driving and riding, and some information about how you can get a day's driver or rider coaching with me if you want. And I do coaching for people who are looking to pass the Masters as well. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.